bookshop. It's the bookshop. It's the bookshop of Beverly Farms.
Howdy, everybody. It is Sam Feifel, your host of John Updike's Ghost, your favorite little podcast about reading, books, bookstores, writing, podcasts that are coming to an end, and all your favorite topics. I'm here, as always, with my sister, the co-owner of the bookshop of Beverly Farms, and all-around cardigan wearer, Hannah Harlow. How are you doing today, Hannah?
I mean, I'm great, but I feel like you just really dropped a bomb in the opening there.
Well, I just feel like we need to manage all of the expectations and emotions of our loyal John Updike's Ghost listeners, because they know that episode 98 was the last one. We are recording episode 99 right now. Episode 100 is coming up, and it may very well be that 100 episodes is as much as John Updike's Ghost can handle.
Well, let's reassure our listeners that we wouldn't be going away forever.
Well, exactly right. So they might be wondering what happened to this podcast. They are feeling down in the dumps. Oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible. But no, we are coming back with a better and a new and improved podcast that will come out, I don't know, like 2 or 3, 4 or 5 weeks after the 100th episode celebration. And it will be way better. And that
new and improved.
Very happy.
All the things we've learned over 100 episodes, so that we can bring a much more searchable podcast to all of you.
That would help. It'll have a name that people understand and know what it means. And will be findable by people who do things other than search the term John Updike, which is becoming rarer and rarer on the internets today. I haven't done a Google Trends analysis of John Updike, but I'm guessing he ranks rather low on the daily search term list.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's not great. And also we're going to be, a little bit more concise, maybe. Sometimes we can get rambly.
Oh, we're going to be concise.
Well, we're going to limit things. We're going to put limits around. We're going to put up some guardrails.
There will be some. It would be good to have guardrails. I think it's good to have guardrails. But until that day comes, we are going to finish out with a bang.
Yeah.
We have some wonderful books for you today on John Updike's Ghost. What, pray tell, Hannah, is on your agenda?
I've got 2.5 books on my list.
2.5?
Well, I feel like I started talking about Flashlight by Susan Choi last episode, so I just want to give a quick, recap, just round things out on that conversation.
Right.
And then I have Fonseca by Jessica Francis Kane. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's
looks
how I've
right.
been saying
I've
it.
seen that on shelves.
Yeah. And then I have a bit of a classic, A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have heard of that. I have 2 books on my agenda. One of them is definitely a classic. It is The Wall by Marlen Haushofer, who was an Austrian author who died at the age of 49 in 1970. So it's I'll tell you why I read it later when we get to it.
Yeah, I don't want to know right now.
It is a pretty classic piece of dystopian future science fiction feminist literature, I would say.
Ooh, okay.
If I was going to categorize it, I would say actually a forebear of Nnedi Okorafor, if I was going to.
Interesting.
I'm going to make that link. And then my second book is a memoir by Mike Campbell, who wrote with Ari Sertival. It's called Heartbreaker, and Mike Campbell is the guitar player in the Heartbreakers, Tom Petty's band. So it functions as a creation story for Tom Petty, who many people may have heard of. So why don't we start?
Yeah, I'm going to go with people have heard of Tom Petty.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, who's to say?
Who's to say?
Let's start with Flashlight, since our mother was a big fan of Flashlight.
Yeah, she really liked it.
Quite a bit. She was raving about Flashlight.
So it is one of those books that, even though there were times, as I mentioned last time, that I found a bit unpleasant, I thought the mother-daughter relationship was like really toxic and terrible. And I just like, if it was unpleasant to experience. It is one of those books that I find myself telling people about. Like, I keep talking about it.
Yeah, Mom was yammering about it all weekend.
Right. So I think the real hook is North Korea. Also, just like, I think there's relations between like Japan and Korea, and then later even China in the war and after the war that like I was pretty ignorant of. It's just not anything I've really ever studied or read about. So
I've
I
done
think
quite a bit of reading about it. Remember the book that Ruby illustrated, the Ever Heard of Her?
yes.
One of the big people profiled in that was a big champion to unveil the history of the comfort women, which were the Korean women who were basically enslaved to Japanese officers during the war. So that I got into a lot of the bad feelings countries when I was researching that.
Yeah. So I felt like I was learning. I always love, that I can read novels and they can teach me things and I don't have to read boring, history books. So I did, just kidding. I did feel like I was learning things. And I don't it's hard to talk about because I don't want to give anything away, but you do get some scenes in North Korea. So I think those are super, because North Korea is such a mystery. I thought those were super interesting. And
do we have some
ultimately,
idea that they're accurate?
I mean, I have no idea. Like, I didn't do the research I didn't research her research.
Right.
I just sort of assumed it was pretty good. Because she's a pretty reputable writer. So
I just have no idea. How does anybody know what's going on?
How does anybody know? I don't know.
No idea. Yeah.
I don't know. So there are some pretty crazy things that happen that you're like, did this really happen?
Right.
And I'm not totally sure. But it was fascinating to read. And I think ultimately, if you love a good tragedy, like, it's pretty tragic.
Yeah. Everybody dies at the end.
No, I mean, yes and no, but I also found it wasn't like you're crying at the end. Like, it's tragic, but it's still a bit academic. Like, I wasn't.
You're not like bawling.
I'm not bawling. It's not like,
you're not heartsick.
Your wife read Wally Lamb. I haven't read Wally Lamb, but right. I feel like he can be kind of like emotionally manipulative and you're going to be weeping. This was more like, you feel heartsick, but like you're not actually crying and you recognize it's a tragedy, but you're not.
Oh my God, this didn't have to happen this way.
You're absolutely thinking that, like, this did not have to happen this way. So I think it's worth reading.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what my transition is. Why don't we go to the classic Marlen Haushofer, The Wall.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I read it is because I was in Bank Street Books down in Mystic. They have a new store. They moved. I was very skeptical of the move, but their new store is super pimp, has all this room. There's couches to sit on. They, very browsable bookstore.
Right.
In a way that the old location was right downtown Mystic, so tons of walk-in traffic, but it did feel like crowded in a way that this never does. But that may be because they have fewer customers, and that's self-defeating. But so I was like, I just want to buy something. I'm in here. I was looking for like a tidy little paperback. I went to I think I was in the science fiction fantasy. I think they had science fiction and fantasy. I went in there, actually. I was going to buy volume 2 of Dungeon Crawler Carl from them.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that'd be a good thing to buy here. They didn't have volume 2. They only had 5 and 6 or whatever. So I was just kind of browsing in that general like fantasy nerds section. And I picked up this because it's got a great cover with a cow on it. I'm a big fan of cows. And it says, while vacationing in a hunting lodge in the Austrian mountains, a middle-aged woman awakens one morning to find herself separated from the rest of the world by an invisible wall. And I remembered what's the book, the YA book you just read that had that exact conceit?
It was Kenneth Oppel.
What is it
Gosh,
like?
what was that book called?
Greatest of all worlds or best of all worlds or something?
Yeah, the best of all worlds.
Best of all worlds, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, now I know where you ripped that idea off.
Oh man, it's
And
been done.
I really wonder if he read this book because it's the exact same thing, right? So it's this woman who is in the Austrian hills. She's an Austrian, She's at this hunting lodge with like her rich Uncle Hugo and his wife, or whatever. And it's up in the hills, I think it's just post-war era. She died in 70s, so it's the 50s or 60s, 50s, 60s technology. Definitely post the bomb because, this is kind of a bomb allegory. And so they go off for dinner, and she just goes to sleep in their little cabin and then wakes up the next morning and they haven't come home. And oh my God, what's going on? And she's just like kind of exploring and walking into town. Bam, smacks into the wall. And then, birds are smacking into the wall. The cow smacks into the wall, and it's a survival story. People liken it to Robinson Crusoe in like some of the comments.
Do people see her? Like,
no, all the other people are dead. So on the other side of the wall, everybody's dead.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, like, so she can see like dead birds on the other side. She comes across this farmer who's like just slumped over the fence or whatever. So anybody that she can see is dead, and she gets out of binoculars. She can see into the town. There's no smoke. There's no cars moving around. Everything's dead as far as she knows. And there's like a stream that can go under or whatever. Like, so it's like the wall definitely does not go to like the center of the earth or whatever. Mm-hmm. But she's very scared to go to the other side because everybody on the other side is dead. So she's just, she kind of goes about her business, and she's constantly thinking, do I go under the wall and try to, find other people? What do I do?
How much room does she have inside the wall?
She's got a big, tons of room in the mountains, whatever.
Okay.
So she actually comes across she goes exploring and comes across other hunting lodges that are empty and, various buildings, and doesn't come across any other people. But, there's deer and there's other animals in this dome. She never, she maps out like the wall, but the dome is big enough that she can't get all the way around, and she's worried about like never not being able to get back, and she's on foot. She doesn't have any car of any kind or anything. And so it's fascinating, but it also reminds me a lot of The Calculation of Volume, Part 1.
I mean, that's what I was thinking of.
Very similar because it's all written in this journalist style. So this is a report that she's writing to the universe 2 years in. And so she has the knowledge of where she is at 2 years, but she's telling the story all in a row. So she'll like allude to things, and she's like, now that so-and-so's dead, blah, 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 so you have a lot of foreshadowing of what's going to happen. But it's really masterfully written. I can see why when I read up on her, she's very well respected. I'm actually surprised I've never run across her again, but she was like a housewife. Her husband was a dentist, and she helped out in the dental clinic, and nobody knew that she was a writer, and she just wrote these books and sent them to a publisher, and they published them, and she was relatively well read, but she had no like profile as a writer, basically, and then died of cancer at 49.
Wow.
And so, she has like 4 novels and a memoir, basically. And obviously it's in translation. She wrote in German, I think, in Austria. So, she's pretty obscure, but a lot, so the Afterward is written by Claire Louise Bennett. What is her? Checkout 29. That was her, right?
Yeah.
And
Checkout 19.
Checkout 19. I couldn't finish that book. It was so bad. Couldn't believe it. What all the words. I was like, this is garbage. So she writes the Afterward and talks about it as a kind of feminist anthem because she is able to survive, right?
Right.
But
She makes it.
yeah, she has all these limitations, and it's very feminine way of surviving. She keeps these animals, and she has a cow, and the mother cow is the provider, and basically there's lots of talk about how we never make it without this cow. And then she has this bull as a son, and then has to breed the bull. And there's like all this sort of male female kind of allegory going on. And she just really makes you care about these animals under her caretaking. There's cats that come into it and dogs. And, it's just
short, right?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a little while. It was 240 pages,
okay. Sorry.
And it's very dense. Actually, the other, it also reminds me a lot of Jose Saramago in that it's very dense paragraphs. Like maybe you get one paragraph a page, and there's no chapters. It's just one boom,
right,
from start to finish, walls of text. So
those can be hard.
Yeah, it's just.
You gotta.
It really was that, like, much like Jose Saramago. It like really gripped me. I found myself reading very intensely. I enjoyed the hell of that. I was so happy that I bought it randomly just because of that stupid YA book.
That's so great. I mean, I could transition in many ways because, like, both of my books, I'm going to end up talking about kind of classics.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I can start with A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr.
She did 2 years in the country. Here we go, A Month in the Country.
Here we got A Month in the Country. So this book, I don't know. The reason I picked it up was I have been ordering these Penguin Modern Classic editions from our UK wholesaler.
Yeah.
Because I love how they look. And sometimes I'm like, ordering a special order, but I gotta like get to the minimum, so I just throw on some of these
I like it.
Classic editions.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
And so I had someone buying this book, and they were like, "You've never read this?" Like they were buying it as a gift, I think, for somebody because they had read it before, and they were just shocked I hadn't read it, and they were like, "I love this book so much. Like it's so, like it just makes you feel so good." Huh. So I was like, I want to feel good.
Yeah, me too.
And it's 100 pages, so it's. It just seemed like a nice little summer
breezy,
like interstitial. So it is about a guy named Tom who's returned from World War I, like a bit damaged.
Yeah.
He's got some like shell shocks kind of stuff going on. His trouble kind of talking to people and just staying calm or whatever.
Yeah.
But so he's hired by this church in the country. They think they have like a medieval painting, like underneath the wall, like, underneath decades and hundreds of years of grime and whatever. And so his specialty is like cleaning up or restoring old paintings.
Oh, okay.
So he's there for the summer, and he's just in this church up on a scaffolding all day, just like, inch by inch uncovering this painting.
Getting this painting.
Yes. Yeah. So I liked that you got the like the art of it, of like the job. And then you get to know a couple of the different characters in the village. And it's all just very quaint and like wholesome kind of seeming. And, it's the summer of 1920. It's being told from like the end of his life. And
so he's remembering back to his summer in the country.
This one ideal summer he had. And so I was curious that the person who recommended it to me said, it just makes you feel good, because while it is really lovely, it was a lovely summer. He's telling it from the end of his life, where like from a lifetime of disappointment. Like that was the one.
Yeah, that's the one time. Wait, so he's writing from the future? Like,
just like the character is old now and he's remembering the summer.
Right. But is the character who's old, like theoretically being projected into the future by the author, or is the author writing it in that time?
No, the author's writing it in that time. The book was...
The author himself is remembering something from 30 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, the author died, J.L. Carr died in 1994.
Okay. And when did he write this?
This book, where is it? I think it came out in the 80s. I'll find it eventually. Yeah, 1980.
So this is somebody, yeah. So he's old, end of his career, writing like, this is what it was to be young.
Yes, exactly. That just kind of comes in a little bit. It's not like a big part of the book. Like most of the book is you're in the summer, whatever, of 1920.
I like it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, totally. And very well written. It has an introduction. So, okay, I read this like a month or two ago.
Yeah.
And I've just sort of like, I had so many other books to talk about. Like I just kind of kept setting it aside to talk about later. So I am just now realizing that there is an introduction by Penelope Fitzgerald in this book.
Oh.
And my next book
is Penelope Fitzgerald.
It's not by Penelope, but it's about Penelope. It's a novel about Penelope Fitzgerald.
Oh.
So it's very strange.
That is very strange. A novel about Penelope Fitzgerald?
Yeah. I mean, do you want to go right into it?
Might as well, because then my last one is not very literary. So
right. Yes. So Fonseca by Jessica Frances Kane is a novel that just came out.
Yeah.
And so it is it's fiction, but it's based on a real life trip that Penelope Fitzgerald took to Mexico.
And Penelope Fitzgerald is a crime writer?
No, Penelope Fitzgerald. So this is what's been interesting to me is that everyone I've mentioned this to has said, who is Penelope Fitzgerald?
Right.
So Penelope Fitzgerald was a British writer. She died in 2000.
Uh-huh.
She published her first book at the age of 50.
Right. She's older. Yeah.
She published her first book at 58 in 1975. Her third novel was called Offshore, and that won the Booker Prize. And I think that was in 1970.
Oh, she wrote The Bookshop. That's right.
And then she also wrote The Bookshop. She wrote...
I was going to say, I know I've read something by her, and I was like, what am I spacing on? The Bookshop. Yeah. That miserable book. I mean, it was a great book, but like...
It was great. I love that book.
I know, but it's just miserable. Ugh.
Right. Everyone is miserable.
Rainy and cold, and everything's got mold on it. And...
I mean, I read it a long time ago, but it's like, it's about a town that doesn't want a bookshop.
Right. They're like, get out of here, bookshop. It's terrible. And at the end, she's like, screw you guys, and leaves.
Yeah. So she had one book that won the Booker Prize, and she had 3 books nominated for the Booker. So the Bookshop was nominated, The Gate of Angels, and The Beginning of Spring.
Right.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, we talked about her before, but it was like on episode 2 or something. So
right.
Yeah.
So she took a trip to Mexico, and that's what this novel is about. And, clearly there are a lot of liberties taken because, from what I gather, there were not a lot of like notes left behind by her.
Right.
There was probably journals. There were probably journals at some point. But, so Penelope Fitzgerald, before she was a published writer, she taught for a long time, but there were many years where she was living in poverty.
Right.
And at one point, she and her family were living on a houseboat, and the houseboat sank twice. And the second time it sank it was for good, and it took like all of their belongings.
Oh my God.
With it. So I think stuff was lost. But the novel I found quite enjoyable. It's, I was trying to figure out if it's like...
Is there a plot? Like, is there a...
Yeah, so Penelope Fitzgerald, at the time of the trip, she and her husband are running a literary magazine called The World Review.
Uh-huh.
And they have no money.
Right.
So then she gets a letter from 2 sisters, or sister and sister-in-law, with the last name of Delaney. And they are rich old ladies with no heir. So they are like, we are trying to figure out who we're going to give our money to. And we heard that you have a son. And Penelope Fitzgerald did have a son named Valpy. Mm-hmm. And so the sisters were like, maybe you want to come bring Valpy to visit us so we can meet him and maybe decide if we want to leave him our money. Because there's some connection. Like they were somehow related, or I can't remember now, dear friends of Penelope's mother.
Right.
So she's like,
Sure.
sure. Like, what have we got to lose? Let's go to Mexico. So she and her son go to Mexico alone, and they stay with the sisters for 3 months. And so they're kind of vying for this inheritance. And there are a bunch of other people there too, who she dubs the pretenders in the book. So everybody kind of gathers.
So there are other heirs. There are other people with heirs that they might be
other people who are not necessarily heirs, but feel like they have a claim.
Wow.
They're making their case.
Oh, I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's sort of competing against all these other people. And then Edward Hopper and his wife Jo are characters, which I enjoyed. Yeah. So I guess they did go to Mexico. There was a trip they made that happened kind of at the same time.
She was bros with
really there. There's
Edward
no,
Hopper?
I don't know that there's, I think the author said in her note that there was no evidence that they actually met and hung out. So that's, she imagined this relationship, but they were, technically there at the same time. And
I like that. That's the way Alex Irvine used to write books. He would his whole thing was that you can't prove they didn't do what I said they did,
yes,
because on those days we don't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
I like that. My current favorite band is called Nighthawk, and they named themselves after the Edward Hopper painting because they imagined their first album as happening inside the universe of his paintings.
Interesting. Well, we there was that big Hopper exhibition that was in Gloucester a couple years ago, and the book came out about it.
Coffee table book was amazing on Hopper's paintings.
Yes. So when we hosted the author for that talk about it, there was a lot of talk about how Jo is sort of unrecognized as an artist, that she was sort of shunted aside by her husband. And you get some of that in the novel of Jo's trying to paint too, and Ed's kind of a dick about it.
Stealing all the oils, huh?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just this, and then so the women kind of befriend each other, and there's this theme of stifled creativity for the two of them, and just how do you make your art in this world? Yeah.
Well, I have a good transition for that. How you make your art in this world. Mike Campbell, guitar player for the Heartbreakers, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Yes.
I'm not a big ranker of things, and I'm sure if I started thinking about it, I could think of other great books, but this is one of the best musician autobiographies I've ever read.
What makes it so good?
Well, so just in general, so many of them are not very readable, right? Because autobiographies, even when they have help, they're just kind of awkward things. And, which stories do I tell and how do we organize it or whatever. But this dude, Ari Sertival, do you know who Ari Sertival is? I probably should have looked him up. I meant to. He is he's an author himself, based in Nashville. Managing editor of Performing Songwriter Magazine, editorial director for Gibson Guitar. So clearly a good writer. I didn't recognize his name, but it doesn't read like a memoir. And there's all sorts of places where he introduces other musicians from the band and gives their backstory, where Mike Campbell didn't even know that dude during the time that he's recounting. So they clearly went and did the research. And it reads often just like a band biography. So, but it has enough personal warmth and first person that you really feel like you're experiencing with him. And he is very likable, very humble. He talks a lot about. And it's really cool because you get this kind of portrait of Tom Petty given by someone who kind of ran into him, was doing other things, and just almost got captured by Tom Petty. You get this great sort of impression of how charismatic and just dynamic Tom Petty was, which you don't really necessarily know from his kind of traveling Wilburys, shucks sort of thing. But everybody just loved this dude, and Mike Campbell, his guitar player, loved him, and they all met in Gainesville, Florida, because they were all kind of hanging around the University of Florida. So they all grew up in Florida. And this was like right when Vietnam was happening. So a lot of dudes were avoiding the draft by going to college. So there's just thousands of people at college. They have nothing to do. There's no internet or anything. So they're just like, there's music festivals all the time. Every bar has live bands. They're all wanted to be. So this is when like Leonard Skinner was coming up and the Allman Brothers were coming up. And there's all this like Southern rock. And so they're all just like playing in bands. Everybody wanted to be in a band. And so this dude had no money. His dad was a Air Force dude who was deployed in Okinawa. His mom was a train wreck. His dad never like sent enough money back. They were always broke. But they're living in Florida, and so, you just kind of sleep on couches or whatever and get by. And his guidance counselor called him into her office by mistake. And he was like, "No, I'm Mike Campbell." And she was like, "Oh, hold on a second." Like, pulls his file. I was like, "Oh, you have like straight A's. Do you want to go to college?" And he was like, "How do you go to college? I don't need money. What are you, crazy?"
Wow.
Like, no. Like, we can get you into University of Florida, no problem. And so it helps him get into college. And so he winds up in Gainesville. And like his mom had bought him like this shitbox guitar when he was like 13 years old as like the, one, or his dad got it as like his one present, showed up from Okinawa. And as like a little electric guitar. And he just loved the thing, was a total introvert, never stopped playing guitar. And then, there's just like all these crazy series of events. He meets Tom Petty. And but it also just shows how small the world is. Like one of the dudes that was in the band, his brother moved out to Florida and was in the Byrds and then was a founder of the Eagles. And this other dude that they used to hang around with, like, went off and founded, some other famous band, and like, so everybody's plan was you just move to California and awesome things happen with your band. And so they literally just drove to California. Like, there's all sorts of hilarious stories about, like, they get to California. They don't know anybody in California. They get lost. They can't find each other for like 3 days. Because there are like 3 different cars,
Right.
It's like, how do you find anybody?
How do you find anybody?
It was impossible. They had to like, they all had to just go to their label and like hang out in the parking lot of the label, just hope the other guy showed up,
Oh my God.
There's like a great story about how, it can be a little bit clunky. When it gets clunky, it's like it's like there's his own personal stuff. Like he meets his wife, birth of his daughter, all that sort of stuff. I'm like, I don't really care.
You don't care.
I want to hear about Tom Petty. Yeah. But like the scene where he meets his wife is hilarious. They're just like hanging out in this flop house. It's just like that Jerry Garcia, the snarling trumpet thing. I just don't think people really wrap their heads around how nice they have it. Like, these dudes were living in flop houses, 5 guys to, a room sometimes. Just, they have $2.50 a day and like meal stipend, and they make that work. And so, some dude comes in and is like, "Hey, there's a party going on. There's going to be chicks there. Like, get my car." So they all drive. They go to some motel and it's in room 19, and he goes there. They all party. He meets his chick and like totally vibes with her. He's hammered, whatever, winds up at home, and he's like, "How do I ever find that chick again?" Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, I like her.
So he said he just started walking around in concentric circles until he saw the motel again. And he's like, "Oh, that's the motel." Then he goes to the room, knocks on the door, and the woman answers, and he's like, "There was this chick here last night. She had long hair. Do you know her?" And the woman's like, "Yeah, I'm talking to her on the phone right now. Do you want to talk to her?" And just hands him the phone, And so, I don't know. There's all kinds of just great 70s partying stories. And for people who care about how, like, that first Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers record, like Breakdown, American Girl, like those are, completely iconic American songs. And just the stories of how they wrote them and how, like, he's really good at he's like, we sucked so bad. They kept firing musicians and it was just me and Tom and everybody else got fired. And then, we found this 16-year-old keyboard player and, and Breakdown, he said it was because they, Bob Marley was on the same label that they got signed to, and they go and see Bob Marley for the first time. And then Tom Petty comes home. He's like, I'm going to write a reggae song. And that's Breakdown,
Oh my God.
And it's like, that's what I do. That's what everybody does,
Yeah.
But why Tom Petty can make super billion hits and other people can't. So it's super entertaining. After I had read the first 50 pages of it, I texted Chandler, who gave me the book, and said it was his favorite book ever. And I was like, oh my God, you were so right. This book is great. And he was like, yeah, that book was so good. I couldn't do my job for a few days because I had to read this instead.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's just for music geeks, it came out in March. I think it's March 2025. It's just super entertaining. Just if you love classic rock, you have to read it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was really good.
Okay. Well, we had a bunch of winners this time.
Yeah, no, I really very much enjoyed my reading. I read that Haushofer on the dock this weekend.
Oh,
and
that sounds nice.
Great dock read. Crushed it.
Cool. Well, hopefully we'll have one more doc reading.
So
session.
this is 99. Next time will be 100, which will be a big blowout finale. Amazing.
Wow. What are we going to read for the 100th episode?
I don't know. Maybe I should. Yeah, that's a.
Maybe we should pick some special books.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that would be. I don't even know.
I don't either.
I think we're just going to keep reading.
I think
our pile from Christmas still, that I have a couple books I need to read.
I'm just going to read the regular old books.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm reading a bunch of boring, college, understanding how the college admissions process works books. And I'm not going to bring those here to the show because they are so sad.
Nobody wants to hear about that garbage.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Right. Well, other things then are going to be.
Until next time, when we hear from us on the 100th blowout, ending forever, John Updike's Ghost. See you later. Bye.